Hey guys, how you doing? You right? I hope that trailer blew away the cobwebs a bit on day 3. Hello, I'm Tom Nelson. I work at the Royal Opera House in the heart of London's Covent Garden. We're going to tell you about a really simple idea that turned into a global celebration, elevating an art form worldwide whilst transcending geographical, cultural, and political divides. Back in 2012, we felt at the Royal Ballet that the brand of ballet was getting a bit lost online, tarnished by a sea of mediocre content. There were really passionate vloggers and amateurs, that's true, but how could we tell our story? A story of athletes at the top of their game, proven to be fitter than Olympic swimmers, striving to deliver perfection every night. And come to think of it, where was the Royal Ballet brand in all of this? We wanted to find a way of taking back the narrative online, becoming that trusted guide that young people across the globe could look up to. So, we took a pretty big risk at the time. We broadcast a day in the life of the Royal Ballet. Live, raw, unedited. It was the longest ever live stream, 8 hours in total, and we partnered exclusively with YouTube. And it did pretty well. It chimed with the unstoppable growth of social media. We were able to leverage several different platforms behind this simple idea: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. And the audience got involved too. We asked them to submit videos of themselves doing a grand jeté wherever they were in the world, and we received hundreds. In our evaluation afterwards, we were seeing massive global reach. The USA, South America, Asia. Ballet, after all, is a language that transcends cultural boundaries. So then we asked ourselves a question. How could we take the kernel of this idea and make it even bigger? Well, we picked up the phone and called a few friends. The Australian Ballet in Melbourne, the Bolshoi in Moscow, National Ballet of Canada in Toronto, and San Francisco Ballet up the coast here. And we said, hey, we did this thing, it seemed to go pretty good. How can we make it better together? Luckily, they were all up for the challenge, and at that moment, the building blocks for World Ballet Day were put in place. Our first task together. We had to find a way of creating a structure and a narrative out of this newfound egalitarian camaraderie. And at the same time, we had to convince ourselves it was worth all the faff of streamlining our different organizational priorities and time zones behind one event. At that moment, we just had a whole slew of questions. How far should we pull back that curtain? Would audiences even want to see behind the polished product? Could we get our internal teams on board with this? Would the world buy into it? And hell, could we even make it technically work? Well, we just had to dive in and give it a go.
Thanks, Tom. And give it a go we did. Hi everyone, I'm Penny Rowland, Director of Marketing at the Australian Ballet. And it's with great pride that we stand here to talk about how we produced the first ever World Ballet Day, one of the most transformative, inspiring, galvanizing projects many of us had ever worked on. So there were 3 key decisions the collective of 5 worldwide companies had to make for the first live stream. First, what would it actually be, the World Ballet Day thing? Second, how would we go about it? And third, what types of content would resonate with global audiences? So I'm just showing you a photo of our first script and rundown at the Australian Ballet, which was all very exciting. So we all agreed that World Ballet Day would be a genuine celebration of dance and an opportunity for audiences to see what it takes to be one of the world's top companies. It would provide viewers around the world an unprecedented inside look at the athleticism and dedication required for a life in ballet. So how did we go about this? Well, our respective companies already had a strong focus in creating content. We do this every day, like I'm sure you do, telling the stories of our seasons and to really democratise our art form to bring in new audiences. So our teams transformed into like TV production companies. We were essentially creating and producing, directing our own live TV show. So we appointed executive producers, so often people like ourselves in collaboration with the artistic director. We did recruit experienced TV crews, of course, and then we called out to the rest of our organisations. And that's how we approach creating the overarching narrative for the broadcast. So what types of content did we create? Well, we had to consider the real value of World Ballet Day, which was all about the connection to the wider global dance community and hopefully many others. We all had to ask ourselves, what makes our companies unique and why would people be interested? So for the Australian Ballet, especially when you consider there are 200-year-old European and Russian companies, we wanted to show the uniqueness of the Australian physicality, the Aussie sense of humour, the diversity and scale of our company, our world-leading medical team, so the full behind-the-scenes setup. For a company like the Bolshoi, their editorial imperative was all about celebrating their traditional heritage and the Russian pedigree of the classics. So there are 5 key questions that drove the editorial direction and what we believe to be the most imperative. How do you take ballet out of the theatre and still create a live multisensory experience? What human stories, how do we tell the human stories behind these extraordinary superhuman artists? And which behind the scenes moments will provide a genuine insight into our world? Not every company has their own point shoot room. Is it possible to convert our social media followers into real ticket purchases? And that I know would be a key priority for most of us. And finally, who are the stars of the show? Which dancers do you focus on? Do you have a charismatic host who's going to educate our viewers about the art form? So I'm just going to show you what a typical day consisted of. Especially for the first broadcast, we approached that day with great excitement and high expectations, and we all tended to start with company class. So class is a ritual in ballet. Every company around the world starts the same way. It's a beautiful, graceful movement. It's an amazing opportunity. And our audiences cannot get enough of watching the full class. We also ensured plenty of tutu moments, because tutus is the highest rating content on our social platforms at any time of the year. Of course, there were also behind the scenes showing our stars rehearsing, always ensuring a nice balance of contemporary and traditional repertoire. But what were the challenges? Well, first is cost. For busy ballet companies, there are significant costs taking artists and dancers out of their everyday, not to mention the rest of us in marketing, IT, digital, everyone else. Second, recruiting reliable TV experts and tech partners who may or may not deliver on their promise. And third, the arduous task of clearing copyrights, both for music and creative. So all in all, was it worth it? Well, we think absolutely. World Ballet Day, we discovered, was a great format to show what makes our art form so unique. And working together collaboratively across the 5 companies would give audiences an opportunity to see how ballet really is a universal art form, but we discovered it's equally unique and different wherever it is performed. So we were really enthusiastic that first broadcast, but also quite anxious when we broadcast, would people actually watch? Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Where my data geeks at? Where my number nerds at? You guys ready to get into some numbers? You want to talk about it? You want to get into it? Let's do it. My name is Thomas Weitz. I'm the Associate Director of Digital Strategy at San Francisco Ballet, and I'm here to talk to you about the numbers. So, as Penny was saying, we had a plan. We knew what the content was going to be. We had our production teams. We were ready to go. But keep in mind, this was 2014, and YouTube had only been streaming live for 3 years at this point, and the longest continuous stream was only 9 hours. And we were going to do 20 hours. So we were a little concerned, both technically and content-wise, whether or not people would show up. And if they did show up, how long would they watch for? So we did some work up front to try and promote the event and drum up some interest. We put together 2 videos. The first one was a trailer. It was very similar to the one that you saw at the opening of this session. And that video was posted by all 5 companies 3 weeks before the broadcast, and it was viewed a little over 160,000 times. The second video was an engagement video. This was a video where we wanted to try and get people to submit photos and videos of themselves doing pirouettes. And the 5 companies put this video out a week before World Ballet Day, and it was watched a little over 130,000 times. So we knew based on these 2 videos that there was interest, but these were short videos, and there's no guarantee that watching these would then translate into somebody coming and watching the broadcast. So the broadcast began in Australia at noon on October 1st in 2014. The audience was greeted with an introduction to the company, and then, as Penny pointed out, company class. Their segment lasted 4 hours, and over those 4 hours, 38,000 people watched World Ballet Day. Over the next 16 hours, audiences would be taken from Australia to Russia, Russia to the UK, UK to Canada, and Canada to San Francisco. And over those 16 hours, 200,000 people would watch World Ballet Day. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I start talking and hearing numbers this size, it starts to lose meaning for me. So I want to just put this in a little context for you. So the largest stadium in San Diego is called the Qualcomm Stadium. It seats 70,000 people. So it would take 3 Qualcomm stadiums to seat all the people who watch World Ballet Day. Or to put that a little closer to home, the War Memorial Opera House in San Francisco, where the San Francisco Ballet performs, houses a little more than 3,000 people. So the World Ballet Day audience would have filled 66 performances, or nearly our entire season, in 1 day. Okay, that's great, that's cool. We reached some people. It's not bad, all right. But how long did they watch for? You see, if they only watch for 30 seconds, you can hardly call reaching 200,000 people a particularly successful experience. That being said, the average watch time on YouTube is 3 minutes. So what does success look like? Is it 3 minutes? Well, that would be kind of average. What if we doubled? What if we got 6 minutes? That wouldn't be bad. That's double average. How about 10 minutes? Let's get crazy. Well, the average watch time of World Ballet Day was 27 minutes. Almost a half an hour on average. Yeah. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Who were these people? Were these just the same subscribers who come to all your shows? Were you actually building audiences here and reaching out? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but at the ballet, when we talk about doing young audience outreach, we mean anyone under the age of 40. So what does that actually mean? Well, the World Ballet Day audience, well, they were young. The single largest age demographic of viewers was 18 to 24-year-olds. 3/4 of those viewers were women, and they represented people from over 140 countries. I do want to point out, though, for all the marketers in the house, that the largest geographic viewing segments were in the host countries. In other words, we were reaching a large, young, engaged audience who were both international but also within our own markets. And we know this not just from looking at the analytics, we know it from looking at social media posts. all the buzz that was generated by this event. Like this is a school in Virginia. They brought all their students together into one of their studios to watch World Ballet Day together. Or this kid who had to do homework and also wanted to watch World Ballet Day. They could have done one or the other, but instead they did both at the same time. So good for her. Then there was this woman. She watched World Ballet Day and was so inspired that she wanted to take a class. And this guy, who was so enamored with World Ballet Day, he wanted to get back from doing his errands just so he could keep watching it. In fact, the hashtag World Ballet Day was posted 19,000 times. It was delivered to timelines on Twitter more than 159 million times. And it reached a total of 19 million people. While the broadcast began at noon in Australia, by 11 a.m. it was already trending in Australia. Later that day, it would trend in the UK, and after that, it would trend in Canada. We not only reached people on social media, we also were picked up in local, international, and trade publications. And in addition to all the buzz that was happening, we were also finding that all that attention was driving people to our website. So this is real data pulled from the San Francisco Ballet website. Now, I'm just going to, ask you to guess which one of those peaks you think World Ballet Day is. I'll tell you what, it's not on the far left, people. It's right there. In addition to all the traffic we got, all the companies also saw a significant bump in social media followers. So it was a huge success. It was a big day for us. But what amazes me, in addition to everything that happened that day, was what happened in the days to come. You see, each of the companies took their 4-hour segments and they posted them onto YouTube so anyone could watch them. Now, because of our union contracts, there were limits on how long those broadcasts could be made available. It ranged between 30 to 60 days, depending on the company. But in that time, 860,000 people watched World Ballet Day, and they watched for an average of 20 minutes. I think you'd agree, based on what I've told you already, that this was a huge success. But there is one number I haven't talked about. And I'm looking at the executive directors and marketing directors right now, and that's the money. How much did it cost? Well, there's a lot. Did you hear that? They're all over there. Maybe I should go back over here. So the question, of course, is how much did this all cost? We're all pretty big companies. Well, the answer is that it costs $315,000, or an average of $63,000 per company. Now, to some of you, that's going to sound like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. For others, not so much. I want to talk to you for whom that sounds like a lot of money. I want to remind you that you can scale this up and you can scale this down. What was important was the partnership. It was the unified front. I also want to remind you that the cost of live streaming has gone down significantly. So instead of thinking about this as an absolute number, I want to talk about it in terms of its value. In other words, what was the return on this investment? What did that money get us? So if we just take those 200,000 live views and we look at what that $315,000 bought us, it was an average of $1.62 per view. In other words, and think about it here, we buy ads, right? We buy posts. We try and reach people, and we spend a certain amount per person. Well, this is $1.62 to get someone who's interested in ballet to watch a 27-minute video about your company and about your art form. That sounds pretty good to me. When we look at just the 860,000 people who watched after the day, it drops down to 37 cents. That's 37 cents to get someone to watch a 20-minute video. All right, what about Twitter? You remember those 159 million impressions? Well, that breaks down to $1.98 CPM, or how many people we reached in segments of 1,000. Now, I couldn't find the 2014 number, but the 2016 number for average global CPM for Twitter was almost $7. Right? So in other words, it would have cost us more than $1 million to get the kind of reach we did for a third of that price. So those are each just individual breakdowns, ROI. But when you combine all those, and then you take the press, and then you take the goodwill, and you take the traffic, and when you take the sales that came from all this, the ROI in an event like this is totally off the charts. So whether you're talking about World Ballet Day in terms of the goodwill that it creates around the industry, or you're talking about it in terms of a marketing initiative that drives awareness, lead generation, and followed by conversions, there is no question that World Ballet Day was a stunning success. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Chang, Senior Communications Manager for the National Ballet of Canada. I'm going to discuss what we actually learned from World Ballet Day and how the project evolved from year one. Now, as you just learned, the first ever World Ballet Day took place in 2014. It was a 20-hour continuous live stream that was hosted on YouTube. And as Thomas mentioned, it was a great success with nearly 200,000 live views. In year two, we thought, how could we make World Ballet Day even bigger and more expansive? We made the day longer, so we went from 20 to 23 hours, and we each invited guest companies to join us in each of our time zones. The audience grew to 350,000 live views. In year three, Facebook had just launched Facebook Live, seeing the appetite that exists for live content. We approached Facebook, and World Ballet Day became the longest Facebook Live ever. Now, in moving to that platform from YouTube to Facebook, the World Ballet Day audience grew to 750,000 live views, with a reach of over 2 million. And in addition to that, all of the companies saw a significant lift in Facebook followers. To continue with Thomas's analogy of audiences, in 2016, the World Ballet Day audience would have filled 357 performances at the Four Seasons Centre, where the National Ballet of Canada performs in Toronto. Now, at the National Ballet of Canada, World Ballet Day was a project that was spearheaded by the Communications Department. Although we had experience with live streams and we had produced many videos, nothing really had prepared us for the beast that is live broadcast and for continuous hours of it. After year one, we learned that World Ballet Day really needed to have full participation and buy-in from all of the departments within the company, the organization, from the artistic department to our dancers, production, IT, as well as communication. In year two, all departments participated more fully, and it was a really gratifying process to work on all together. World Ballet Day is a full company project. Now, World Ballet Day was an undeniable success, but it was a huge undertaking for all 5 companies, and expensive. Today, anybody can go live from their phone, but 2014, the landscape was very different. To create a quality live stream that represented the same level of excellence that the companies perform on stage, we needed to put the dollars behind it. Now, we needed to create a bespoke stream that connected the feeds from 5 different companies around the world into one seamless stream that continued for 20 hours. In order to do this, we engaged a company called Jackshoot, and this did not come cheap. Now, World Ballet Day was only possible because we shared this financial burden. But more than that, we became partners who inspired and learned from each other. Now, our viewers told us that they wanted authentic documentary-style footage. They had a real appetite for live content, and this was evident in the drop-off in numbers that we all saw when viewers were presented with pre-produced content. As Penny mentioned, we began our streams with class and continued with rehearsals and live interviews. Now, viewers were fascinated to compare the differences and similarities between the companies in terms of culture and style. And they used social media to interact with us, as well as with each other around the globe. And all companies were inundated with amazing feedback across all platforms. And yes, they even commented on what the dancers wore. The most important yet most rewarding and gratifying learning, I think, from World Ballet Day is that ballet is alive and thriving. There's a huge appetite that exists as well as a global audience. And this is not just in our theaters, it's also in the digital world. Thank you.
Okay, so before we turn to conversation, we want to hear from one of the collaborators who couldn't be able to join us today. We invited Makar Vaziev, ballet director of the Bolshoi, to share just a few words with you about why the Bolshoi is so excited to collaborate with us all to produce World Ballet Day every year.
Вопрос, но остается, потому что практика показала, что нам это интересно. Нам интересно познавать и что происходит в мире. Нам интересно показать то, что происходит у нас. Это колоссальная возможность вообще понять и одновременно видеть друг друга. Мне кажется, что это и есть вообще часть нашей, скажем так, политики, если хотите, стратегии. Мы все же принадлежим не только России и не только городу Москва, мы принадлежим вообще и имеем свое место в мировом пространстве, поэтому мы же не можем себя отделять. Это потрясающая, наоборот, возможность, когда мы можем использовать технологии, говорить со всем миром. Мне кажется, это потрясающая просто акция.
There you go, there you go. Doesn't that chandelier set him off really nicely? Thank you very much, Makar. As he said, World Ballet Day creates an opportunity for us to speak to the whole world. And it only works because we're all in it together. As that great ballet lover Aristotle once said, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. When we came together, we could leverage powerful partnerships. How often can you say as a cultural organization that both YouTube and Facebook wanted a piece of the action? But you know what? It doesn't just have to be the art form of ballet that collaborates at this level. And why only for one day? That's just arbitrary. 4 years on, we think the landscape is changing pretty fast. As Catherine has just said, you can live stream from that phone in your pocket in seconds, in high def to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. The really important thing, we can't get stuck in a rut. We're really excited about what the next innovation is going to be that's going to change the conversation around arts and culture. For example, what opportunities does immersive tech present for us? And that new iPhone coming out next month, that's going to have some pretty interesting innovation in it, we think, that might disrupt the market a little. Thank you very much.